The much cherished short story Magnolia Flower is celebrating almost 100 years. It's about a young girl with a vibrant spirit. Now the book is being reimagined as a children's picture book that was just out this week. Historian and author Dr. Ibram X. Kendi here joins me to chat about his latest project. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
So you're actually in Chicago right now. You have an event tonight at Semicolon Bookstore, 1714 West Division, to chat about the book. Tell us a little bit about this, in-person event, and what it feels like for you to be able to come out and share the stories out with your fans.
So this is the first in-person event for Magnolia Flower. So I'm both excited and nervous. You know what I mean? I'm really excited to share about the beauty, about this love story of Magnolia Flower. But then again, I'm nervous because, of course, with the first event, there's always those nerves. But I'm happy to be here, in Chicago, really kicking off this book.
Tell us a little bit about what the reimagined story looks like and why it was important to you to share this new updated version.
Well, first, it was important, I think, for two reasons. First, I just wanted young children to be able to learn about and be introduced to one of the great creators and writers in American history, Zora Neale Hurston. I also think at this moment in time, where in many ways our kids are being weighed down by the tragedies of the world, like their parents are, we need joyful stories. We need love stories. We need stories of people overcoming the odds. And that's essentially what Magnolia Flower does in this story. She essentially refuses to be prevented from being in love.
I mean, this is one of those stories that has been shared, almost 100 years. So, not trying to make you more nervous for your event tonight, but it's probably a story that like grandparents and parents and, multi-generational families have shared. And now we get to see our kids seeing these stories and seeing themselves in this new version.
I mean, and that's the beauty, because in many ways, the adapted version for children is very different and then very similar to the original version. What's emphasized in the children's version are the natural characters that Zora created that really tell the story of Magnolia Flower. So the story opens with a dancing brook, this small waterway coming up to a river, a mighty river, and it's like, please tell me a love story. And the river's like, no, I don't want to tell you a love story. And eventually the river concedes and tells the love story of Magnolia Flower. And so it sort of begins and ends the story. And I just think characters from the natural world are typically very attractive to children.
As far as you being a dad, I mean, how has this changed your perception? Because this is, not your first book, geared towards our younger audiences, but your daughter did the audiobook for Goodnight Racism. Obviously, I'm sure you had her in mind, with this new book as well too. But how does being a parent kind of shape the work that you want to create?
It's so many ways. So, for instance, with Magnolia Flower, she is an Afro-Indigenous girl and who comes of age, and her father fled slavery. Her mother fled what was known as the Trail of Tears when Native people were forced to relocate from the Southeast over to the other side of the Mississippi River. And so you have this element of slavery and even settler colonialism, but more importantly, people being, building this free community where Magnolia Flower was born. So what I'm hoping with my daughter is that even though the pulse is this joyful love story, that she asks questions about Native peoples, about settler, maybe not use the word settler colonialism, but about settler colonialism, about slavery. And I think that's a good introduction, for children. So certainly I was thinking of her.
With the bookstore you're going to be at in Chicago tonight, Semicolon Bookstore, Black-owned women business. And I've seen this on different, news stories that I've read about this bookstore and other bookstores here in the Chicagoland area, where you'll see parents go in there and kind of tear up and get emotional because they're able to find books that share their stories, and they're not waiting for maybe a school or particular, book to maybe not tell the story the way that they want to, but be able to pick out books to share with their family and to share with their kids. And what does it feel like for you as an author to be able to go to come to a bookstore like this here in Chicagoland to share your message and to share your work.
I mean, that's why I'm so excited. And I think bookstores like Semicolon are so absolutely critical. And I think and they're critical because for teachers and parents and caregivers, the libraries that we try to create, whether in our homes or in public, must be reflective of the society that our children are going to see, so they can learn about different groups of people with different experiences and then see themselves in those different people. And I think allowing children to appreciate and respect and connect, to difference makes for great, human beings when they come of age.
Let's talk a little bit, it's the beginning of the school year for many people, kindergarten, middle school, high school, where people may encounter families that are different, from the way that they were raised. Maybe a grandparent picks them up and doesn't speak, English, or maybe they're bringing something that's not familiar to them to lunch, or maybe the clothing that they're wearing is different than what they're accustomed to. And then maybe those conversations you have with young people, because especially, our toddlers and our kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they're asking questions, but how to not maybe avoid the topic, but how to bring it up in a way that they maybe understand and kind of have this new message and not kind of fall into the patterns of our past generations.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you ask about that, because the role that books can play is there are books about a girl who comes to school with secondhand clothing. I'm thinking of a famous book by Jacqueline Woodson. There's another book about immigrant children who speak a different language. So one of the things I try to do is I try to bring books to my daughter about different experiences, or even about different people, that allows her to understand their experience from their perspective, so that when she encounters them and sees them, she's thinking about that. And I think that's the beauty of books.
Is your daughter an aspiring author? Is she, how was the influence, and especially, all the wonderful things that you've been able to share with her and include her on these projects?
I think so. I mean, I'm hoping so, but of course I'm going to support her in whatever she does. She has had the opportunity to write stories by herself. And of course they choke me up when she's able to do that. She doesn't need my help at all. She can do it herself. And, it's exciting to see.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. Magnolia Flower in stores right now, and also Semicolon Bookstore, 1714 West Division tonight. Go to semicolonshy.com to purchase tickets for tonight's event, and have a great time here in Chicago.
Thank you.
Thank you.